Hey guys, welcome back. In the previous video, we have seen the overview of Log4J, what is logging, why we need to go for the logging, and what are the components available in the logging. So just I am recalling, logging is very important for applications to understand the application execution status or to understand exceptions occurred in the application. The real-time projects, we are going to use this Log4j framework to perform that logging. In this Log4j, we have three main components. They are logger, appender and layout. Logger to generate the log messages, appender to store the message into destination, layout to format that message. Now, next step, how I need to use this Log4j framework into my project. How I need to plug Log4j framework into the project, we are going to understand as part of this video. Now, to use this Log4j, first we need to download Log4j jars and we need to add those jars to application build path. Suppose if you are using a Maven, we can write a Log4j dependency in the project pom.xml file. Then we need to create Log4j configuration. That several ways are there to create that, like basic configuration, properties file configuration, XML configuration or programmatic configuration. Mainly projects will use properties file configuration that we will discuss in the next slide. Now after this we need to initialize the log4j in our class. That is, as we discussed, we need to create a logger object for every Java class. Then by using that logger object we need to write the statements into in our code what level which message should be printed based on log level methods we have. Those methods provided by logger object. Now, if you are using a Maven project, this is the group ID, artifact ID and version we can configure in project pom.xml file. Group ID log4j, artifact ID is also log4j, version I am using some old version here 1.2.17. Now then that Maven will download the jars dependencies required for our application. Next, configurations. Assume that I created a Maven project, I added the dependency in the pom.xml file. Then how I need to start configuration of this log4j. This configuration we can do in four ways: basic configuration, using properties file, using XML file or programmatic configuration also. But most widely used approach, properties file configuration. Now first let me take a basic configuration just to show you the demo on that, how the basic configuration is going to work. Here I created one Maven project, log4j basic configuration approach. Here in the pom.xml file we can see the dependency for log4j. Now we added only one dependency, that is group ID log4j, artifact ID log4j, version 1.2.17. Then here we can see that the dependency got downloaded from Maven central repository. Now that means we added log4j framework jars to project build path. Now let's take a sample class here. For class, this is the class. For this class I want to perform logging. So the first step, we need to create the logger. How to create the logger? Logger dot get logger for current class, storing into a logger variable. From which package the logger class we are using? We are using the logger from org.apache.log4j.logger. Here this is called initializing logger object for current class. Next, here I am using basic configuration. To use basic configuration, Apache provided one class called basic configurator.configure method. So log4j framework is going to initialize with this line of code. Then we can use methods provided by logger to print those log messages. Logger.trace, that means it is a trace level. Next one, debug. This is debug level message. Similarly, info level. Next one, warn level, error level. So for every level we have corresponding methods in the logger class. And this is fatal level. When we need to use these levels, suppose if it is a blocker issue, then we will print that by using fatal method. If it is a critical, then we will go for error. If it is a harmful situation, we will go for one level. High level information, we will go for info level. In the minute level information to print, then we will go for debug level. Now let's execute this application. Right click on this program, run as Java application. Now we can see that the messages are printed on the console. Why they are printing on the console? Because we are doing basic configuration here. Now can I do that log message? Can I print the messages in a file? Yes, we can use file appender for that. So this is the basic program. Just for our understanding purpose, we have written a normal Java class. We initialized a logger object for this class, and we are using basic configuration, and we are printing several methods using logger based on the levels. Now same thing, I want to use properties file configuration for logging mechanism in my application. Then how we need to do that? Properties file configuration. That is very widely used approach in the industry to generate the log messages. Now, to configure log4j from external properties file, invoke the static method configure from the class property configurator. So which layout I need to use, which appender I need to use, those things we are going to configure in one properties file. And to load that file into our application, we have a class called property configurator.configure method. For that, give the property file which contain those log4j details. Now, so let's see here. When I am using this properties file configuration, first line log4j.root logger, what is the level we are using? The level I am setting as a debug. So what messages are going to print with this level? Debug, and its higher levels are going to print. Comma some alias name I am using as a console here. Now here next line log4j.appender.console. Here we are choosing console appender. What is the purpose of console appender? To print the messages on the console. If I want to print in a file, then we are going to use file appender here. Now currently we are using console appender. Next one, layout. So I want to print my message with some custom pattern. For that we are going for pattern layout. Pattern layout will decide how you need to print that message in the console, because we are using console appender. In that layout, what are the values we need to print, what should be there in that log message, that decided by conversion pattern. So I want to print a date, I need to print the priority of the level, and I need to print class name, I need to print the method name, I need to print line number. What values you want to print in that message, that we can format by using this conversion pattern with the help of pattern layout. See this configuration very carefully. First we are using the level of the logging as a debug. From debug, all higher levels are going to print. Appender I am choosing as a console appender to write the messages to the destination. Console appender destination will be console. The messages are going to write on the console. How that message should be formatted, what should be there in that message, will be deciding by layout. Here we are using pattern layout. By using this pattern layout, we are deciding the pattern of the message, what should be there in that message, like method name, class name, line number, all those details we can add using this conversion pattern. This is the properties file we are going to use in the application to configure log4j in the application. This property file we need to give as input to this property configurator.configure method. This is called initializing the log4j using properties file. So this is the example of the properties file with console appender. Now same thing, if I want to do this using file appender, so log4j.root logger debug, I am using alias name as a file appender we are using, and pattern layout. Here we are specifying file name also. In the previous configuration file name was not there because those are for console. Now in which file you want to write these messages, I am giving a file name and conversion pattern to format the message. So my message should contain date, priority, class name, method and message, and the line number. These are conversion patterns. Now observe this carefully. Log level is a debug. Appender is for file, we are using file appender. Layout, we are using pattern layout, and file name to specify in which file this message has to be stored, and next one conversion pattern to format that message. Now, so let's go to that application. Log4j properties file configuration. First thing, I created a Maven project which is having a pom.xml file. In this pom.xml file, we are using dependency of the log4j with group ID, artifact ID, and version number. So it will download the log4j framework just for our project. Next, properties file configuration. Here we are doing the property file configuration. For suppose, see here. Now here I am using debug comma console. This is console appender. Now, so log4j.root is equal to debug level of the log and comma console. This is alias name. You can use any name here, but that name we are going to specify here as well. Console configuration. Console I am using with console appender. Layout I am using pattern layout. Conversion pattern, date, sum, time, priority, class name, method name, message, and line number also we are going to specify. This is the log4j configuration using properties file. Here we are using console appender, pattern layout, and conversion pattern. Level we are setting as a debug. Now go to our application class. Here I am having a normal sample class report generator where I am having a method. In that I am writing some methods to generate the log messages. So to perform the logging in a class, what is the first step? The first step, initialize the logger or create logger object. Create logger object. How to create a logger object? Logger dot get logger for the current class. Then initialize that logging. Initialize log4j. Now where that log4j configuration is there, that is there in the properties file in the project. So I am loading that properties file, giving as an input to property configurator dot configure method. If we use a basic configuration, basic configurator dot configure method. But here we are using properties file configuration, so I am passing that file as an input to configure method. Now where that file is there, in the project only we created that file log4j.properties. Here you can keep this file in the resources folder also, not a problem, anywhere. So wherever that file is there, just pass the path of that file to this configure method. So it will read the data from this file. What is there in this file? In this file, log level is there, appender is there, layout is there, conversion pattern is there, which are going to use to generate these messages in the destination. So these are the methods provided by our logger class to generate the log statements and the destination. In this application, the destination is console. Now execute, run as Java application. Now you can see that according to that conversion pattern, the messages are printing on the console. Suppose I want to generate these messages in the file. Then what we need to use? We need to use file appender. We need to use file appender and we have to specify file location. So this is the configuration for file appender. log4j.appender.file, file appender, layout, pattern layout, file name, applogs.log file, conversion pattern. These are the values I want to print on the log, in the log message. Now previously for the root logger we specified console, so it is loading this configuration. Now I want to load with the file configuration. Now log level comma file is having here, so it is going to use this configuration for generating the log messages using file appender with the pattern layout with conversion pattern. Messages will be stored into this log file. Now so currently see here my project doesn't have any file with name called applogs.log. Now I am executing this program. Run as Java application. Now nothing is printed on the console because we are using file appender. Refresh this project, we can see applogs.log file got created. So these are the messages. This is the date and time and my class name, method name, and this is the message what we printing. If you observe carefully, For the debug, I am writing this is debug message. But if you see in the log file, this is the debug message. But along with this, these details also got printed. What are these details? These details we specified in our conversion pattern. My message should contain these values. That is very, very important when we are generating a log message. Fine. Now we used console appender as well as file appender. Is it possible to use both at a time? Yes. In the root logger I am specifying debug is a log level, file and console. So now it is going to use file appender as well as console appender. Execute this class, run as Java application. Messages are printed on the console as well as you can refresh this file. Now they are generated in the file as well. So we can use both appenders also in that application. Now let me go to the properties file. Now let's change this level to info. Now currently I am using only console configuration here. Now let's see, I am setting the level as info. Observe carefully what methods are going to execute it. Run as Java application. Now info message, one message, error, fatal. But here we have trace and debug also. Is these two are printing? No, because the level we are setting is info. From the info, all the higher levels are going to execute. Now change the level to error. Now what levels are going to print? Error and its higher levels. What are the higher levels for the error? Only fatal. So error and fatal is going to print. Execute, run as Java application. We can see error message and fatal message. Now change the level to fatal and re-execute, run as Java application. Only fatal message is going to print. So setting the level is very, very important. Whatever the level we are setting, from that level all higher levels are going to execute. If I want to off, set the level to off, then re-execute this method, run as Java application. Nothing is printing because we stopped this logging here by using off level. If I want to print all the levels, set the level to all. Now execute, run as Java application. Now trace, debug, info, one, error, fatal, all the levels are printing here. So root logger level is going to play the very, very important role in logging mechanism. Most of the applications, if you want to print all information about the execution flow, will set the level to debug. If you want higher informations of the application execution status, we will set to info. If we want to print only critical issues and blocker issues, we will set it to error. If you want to print only blocker issues, that we will set it to fatal level. So only blocker issues are going to print here. I hope you got what is the level here now. Here I am writing a basic method to write these log messages now, but in the project we are not going to write like this. But in the real time, how we are going to write the messages now? Suppose if you take this is the method here people are going to write a log level as a debug, method execution started. At the end they are going to write method execution ended. If any exception occurs, they are going to set some information by using log methods, info method and info method, info level, error level, fatal level. So based on the logic you are writing, based on the situation you are, based on the condition you are checking, based on that we are going to use the log levels for a class using that logger object. So it's up to the programmer which level they are going to use to generate that particular log messages in the application. So for blocker issues we are going to use fatal level. For critical issues we are going to use error level. For harmful situations we are going to use one. For high level information we will use info level. For all the details to print all the information to debug that application, we will set the level to debug. So remember what level you are setting, from that level all the higher levels are going to print. If you want to print all the levels, set the level to all here. If you want to stop this logging, set this to off. I hope you got what is this log level and how to choose the log level now. Next, so we have seen some conversion patterns there. What is this conversion pattern? Conversion pattern will specify what values we need to print along with the log message. In this program, if you observe, I am writing only this is debug message. But along with this, I want to print some additional values at what time this line got executed, from which class, from which method, from which line. I want those details also. For that, we will specify conversion pattern using pattern layout. See the properties file configuration. Here I specified my conversion pattern %d to specify the date. With this is the format I want, time and class name, method name, message and line number. So here we can see the purpose of each and every conversion character. See, so the performance will be very faster for this one. If I want to print fully qualified class name, I need to use capital C. Date and time, if I want to print the date, D is the character. You can specify format also. If you want to print the class name or Java class file name, capital F we can use. If you want to print the line number, this is the L we are going to use. Along with the class name, method name, the line number will be printed. If you want only line number, capital L. What is the log message to print? M. Log message means whatever the actual message we are writing in that class, this is the message. We need to print this message on the file. Fine. For this we will represent that character by using small m. So which method? If you want to print the method name also, then we are going to use capital M. If you want to print the priority, what level this message is printed, but this message belongs to which level, that small p we are going to use as a conversion character. After one message printed, next message should go to the next line. Then we will go for small n. Like this, these are the conversion characters we can use to specify conversion pattern of a log message using pattern layout. I hope so. It's based on the situation. For a project, people will use different conversion patterns. Some people will print class name, method name, line number along with the date. Date is also very important to understand at what time this method got executed, this line got executed. So we'll use date, class name, method name, line number and the priority also as part of our log message. Now, so already we have seen this examples like how to use basic configuration and how to use properties configuration, as well as how to use console appender and how to use file appender and pattern layout and conversion pattern. So with this we know what is Log4j and how to initialize the Log4j in the application using basic configuration, using and properties file configuration, what is the purpose of console appender and file appender, what is pattern layout and what is conversion pattern. So in the application, first we need to do the configuration for the Log4j, then we need to initialize the logger for every class like this logger.getLogger, and this logger is providing methods for us to generate the log messages. Only this message is not sufficient in the real-time environment. Along with this, we need to print some more details also that we are doing by using pattern layout with the help of conversion pattern. I hope you got clarity what is Log4j and how to work with this Log4j. So just I am summarizing our conversation. Log4j is an open source framework given by Apache to perform logging for Java applications. Now, why we need to use only this Log4j? Why we cannot go for the system.out.println? System.out.println having so many drawbacks because those are going to print only on the console. They are temporary. I want to write the messages in some permanent location. For that we are going for this Log4j. So Log4j having advantages as well as disadvantages, but advantages are more when compared with the disadvantages. In this mainly three components are there. They are logger, appender, layout. Logger responsible for capturing log message, appender responsible for sending message to destination, layout for formatting that message with the help of conversion pattern. And this is high level overview of Log4j. Now, and we have seen basic configuration as well as properties file configuration also. Most of the people are going to use properties file configuration to configure the Log4j in the projects with file appenders. Very widely used approaches, properties file configuration with file appender, because the files are permanent storage locations to store those log messages.